Nurses of Reddit, what's the most entertaining thing someone has said coming off of anesthesia? I got my wisdom teeth out. The nurse was trying to wake me up and said, "Okay, it's time to open your eyes. Can you open your eyes for me?" I said, "Say please." She said please very nicely, and I opened my mouth as wide as I could. This reads like a John Mulaney joke and I love it. And then the nurse told him to say I'm a little fat girl. A man asked me if his body parts still belong to him, and I still think about it. LMAO. Probably wanted to make sure kidneys coming in equaled kidneys coming out. Kidney equilibrium. Patient here with a great story nonetheless. When I got my wisdom teeth removed, I apparently had a religious experience. I'm agnostic. I told my mom, who was with me, that I saw people walking on water. Next, I kept telling her that I saw Jesus. Apparently, when the female nurse came back into the room, I did the Catholic sign of the cross and whispered to my mom, "That's him. That's Jesus." The nurse lost her crap. That's funny as hell. LMAO, thank you. My family and friends still talk about it. Several years later, I had a male patient who as he woke up mumbled, "I'm not pregnant. I hope I say some stupid crap when I go under for wisdom teeth removal, lol. I'm pregnant." Did a short stint in recovery as part of my graduate program. I got proposed to a couple of times. Same guy would walk past me in the corridor a day later and not recognize me. How rude. Proposes and then ignores you just because he didn't like your reply. P. Not a nurse. My wife woke up from a surgery and started pointing into the middle of the room and in a soft voice said, frick you and you. What's that smell?" She then looked over at me and says, "When did you get here, Yara shat?" Lol. She doesn't cuss much, so I got a good laugh out of it. Number yeah shat. Wisconsin intensifies. A tech here. We often do conscious sedations with ketamine to realign broken bones. I had a 10-year-old girl who snapped her arm on the trampoline. When she was coming out of the ketamine slumber, she asked why she saw God. Little freaky. She also snuffed down 4 PB&J sandwiches after, and I was impressed. The best has to be the sledding accident kid who snapped his tibia. When he was coming out of the ketamine sleep, he kept begging us not to tell his mom he smoked weed for the first time the day before. His mom was in the room while this was taking place. What did the mom do? Railed a fatty line of ketamine. Not a nurse, but my twin sister started speaking fluent Spanish to my mom after she woke up from getting her wisdom teeth removed. We are half Puerto Rican on our mom's side, so we've grown up hearing Spanish, but neither of us had ever carried a fluent conversation with her in it. But apparently my doped up sister could. NGL, I took Spanish in high school, and when I'm wasted I can carry on full conversations. Super, not so much. My German is so much better wasted. I think it's cause you don't overthink as much. We had to slide board a patient from the stretcher to his bed after an endoscopy. You put a board between bed and stretcher and then grab patient and slide them over to bed with sheet underneath them. My patient screamed "WEEE" and then proceeded to tell us that these are the best drugs ever and that it felt like the 60s again. This gave me joy to read, haha. I work in the OR. Funniest was a guy quickly sat straight up after extubation. We are all standing around him making sure he doesn't try to jump off the table. He looks at me and then slowly gives me double finger guns. Turns his head to another staff member and slowly gives them finger guns. Didn't say a word, just finger guns. A lot of people wake up really crazy. They start swinging or just get really restless on a narrower bed. It's nice when people wake up sleepy, and I'll just bundle them up with blankies and roll out. So, waking up aggressively is somewhat common then. My husband woke up during a gallbladder surgery and instantly grabbed one of the surgeons by the throat. Apparently the anesthesiologist had to give him enough to drop him like a elephant. There was an awkward follow-up appointment. Yeah, it happens. I wouldn't worry about it. He should just disclose that whenever he needs surgery in the future, so the staff can take extra precautions, keep safety straps on, and have extra people available. Usually if I have a patient that I don't think I could hold down myself, I keep him strapped in until people are around to help. My brother got his wisdom teeth out not too long ago. When he woke up, He started laughing a lot, like he wasn't laughing super hard, but he was laughing for super long and it almost sounded monotone. After a couple minutes of just flatline laughter, he stopped and mumbled chicken, like it's what he was laughing at, don't know why, but it stopped him from laughing for a bit. Chicken. Arise. Me, coming out of it at the dentist's office. Me, you have to save them. Dentist, save who? Me, the owls. Dentist, what owls? Me, the owls trapped inside the gas machine. They were hooting, I could hear them. You have to save them. Did the dentist save them? If he did, he now has the duty to give them boaters, cause why not? I was coming out of anesthesia and the nurses in the recovery room were all poking fun at each other about which Hogwarts house they would be in. Me, according to my ex-wife, I'm a house elf. Obviously, she gave you a sock at some point. Flight 19 navigator is free. I once told the nurses to stop. I wasn't asleep yet. I wasn't ready. They laughed and said they were done. Another time I came out saying sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy has nuts, Mount don't. No clue why I was singing this, but the nurses thought I was hilarious and let family know this happened. Had that for a wisdom tooth removal. Woke up, asked when they were putting me out, they said I was done. I then sat up and felt like the fun part of a week-long bender. Yep, wisdom teeth as well. Sat up and said did you do IHHT? Oh, because my mouth was full of cotton. Also not a nurse, but I had ankle surgery last year. They gave me animal crackers after, and I remember being really upset that I didn't realize until the last cracker that I forgot to look at the animals and appreciate each one. One does not simply eat animal crackers without acknowledging which animal they're about to eat. But in your case I think you had a good excuse. It was such a missed opportunity, and I still have regrets lol. I came out of it in the middle of a conversation with Gandalf. I was trying to sell him Tupperware. You sir have made me laugh for 5 minutes straight. So, did he buy your Tupperware? You've seen the way those hobbits wrap their cheese. They're a lovely folk, but if they tried to wrap Lembas you'd have a leaf full of crumbs by the prancing pony. No, Mr. Gandalf, a traveling wizard like yourself needs something hearty. And you're in luck. I'm willing to trade for some of your wonderful sky flowers. Though my wife has insisted she be here to hear the exact instructions on the dragony one. Yes. When I was in high school I was just getting put under and feeling loopy for a wisdom teeth operation, and the nurse was making small talk with me and told me she graduated from the same high school I went to and was on the dance team, and I told her no you weren't. You have to be pretty to be on the dance team right before blacking out. I think about this sometimes before I go to sleep at night. Nurse, I'm so sorry to do you like that when you were just doing your job. I've been on this thread for like 15 minutes and this is the most savage comment I've seen. I feel like I'm going to hell for laughing. It was so bad, and I mean this nurse was like perfectly normal looking. Not a nurse, but was in charge of my sister after she got her wisdom teeth out. Got her in the car and she was bawling. Wouldn't stop crying and trying to put her fingers in her mouth. Mind you, she was 20 at the time. I got her back to my apartment and she's having a hard time staying upright, so I'm helping support her as we walk up to the door. She's still crying, but is now trying to do a heel click. We almost fall over. My neighbor sees us and runs over to help open my door. We get her inside. She then proceeds to spend another hour crying about how she wants to write a Harry Potter / Pride and Prejudice crossover ballet in which she would play Dumbledore, Lizzie Bennet, and Mr. Darcy herself. I then asked her who I would play. She said Hedwig and Mr. Collins. That's when it stopped being entertaining. Hedwig is an honor to play SMDH. Mr. Collins sounds like she thinks you need to confess and make amends lol. Not a nurse, but I had dental surgery at a hospital in Bangkok a few years ago. I had pretty much come out of anesthesia and was just waiting for the doctor and discharge stuff. There was this giant Aussie guy also in recovery, and he kept trying to sneak away. Like he'd look around, grab his fourth pole, and tiptoe toward the exit. The nurses were just kind of herding him around the room back to his bed. Then he'd do the same thing again. The nurse with me asked if I wanted the curtains closed, and I was like hell no. I just had major oral surgery and this is funny. So she and I sat there for nearly 20 minutes watching his shenanigans. Nurses have patience like saints, I swear. This is truly hilarious. It was the very best part about a harrowing oral surgery experience. He's so sneaky. Guy wakes up in the recovery room after left knee replacement surgery and starts talking with his wife. Well, at least I still have 2 good knees. Oh honey, she replied, you just had knee surg. He interrupts in a loud voice, my right knee and my weenie. LMAO. Not anesthesia but post-op in ICU. Part had brain surgery for a neuroma. He had a brain drain in but otherwise was fine. Me, hi sir, I have your dinner. Do you need help? PT, no, I can do it. What is it? Me, whitefish. PT, ugh. Me, it's brain food. PT, if that's the case I need a whale. I laughed for 2 hours after that. What is a brain drain? It's when all the well-educated people in your country are lured abroad by better wages, leaving your country with a shortage of skilled workers. Middle-aged woman with obvious surgical enhancements coming off of anesthesia from a diagnostic procedure. I was listening to her lungs with my stethoscope and told her alright, nice big breaths. She said thanks, I just got them done. It was so hard to compose myself, haha, now I say deep breaths. Haha, this is the first one to make me laugh out loud. A 15-year-old was waking up and talking more and trying to get out of bed before he was ready. Bud, where are you going? I've got to go to my locker. Buddy, you're in the hospital. You can't go to your locker right now. So where are you trying to go? Serious expression. The future. You were all set for a quick 20-minute adventure, in and out. As a student nurse for 2 semesters. On a placement in a post-op ward, an old guy had a reaction to the aesthetic, thought he was back in the Korean War, kept trying to get out of bed to help his mates. The 2 nurses couldn't figure out how to stop him. They called security. Meanwhile, I walked up and in my most officious sounding voice said to the nurse I was partnered with, stand down lieutenant, I'll take over from here. She looked confused but moved aside. I said to him, soldier, you took some shrapnel, you need to rest and recover. Now stand down or I'll have you court-martialed for insubordination. Understood? He looked at me for a second, looked around, replied nice and loud yes ma'am, and went back to bed. This is exactly how to respond to anyone having a hallucination in a situation like this. Do not try and tell them it's not real. You will only make them anxious and angry. Very well done. I was on some heavy pain pills once and had a hallucination that there was an old guy on my bed asking me questions. I was aware enough to know without a doubt he wasn't real. But at the same time he really just wanted to talk and he was lonely and everyone ignored him. Please just talk to me, he'd beg. And that's how I had a conversation with someone who didn't exist. Because I felt so bad for ignoring the guy. A friend of mine woke up after surgery and stated I want to eat a Christmas tree. Easier ways to increase fiber intake. Maybe he was just craving vitamin C. Vitamin Christmas. Hein long. Sorry. I worked in an and we had a patient, guy about 20 years old, who had a spontaneous pneumothorax, collapsed lung. Not quite as bad as it sounds. He basically had a small area of air between his lung and chest wall. We had to put in a small chest tube to remove the air. We did a moderate sedation, basically kinda knock him out but not put him completely under. One of the meds used was Versed, which has an amnesic effect, so they don't remember anything. Procedure is done, and I'm monitoring him when he starts coming around. He looks at me and asks, so, when are we going to do this thing? I said, we are already done. Look at your chest, had a drain/dressing in place. He looks down, then looks at me and says, dude, how'd you do that? Maybe not the best story here, but it happened 20+ years ago and it still makes me laugh. Student nurse here. I found this hilarious. I'd be giggling my pants off if a patient said the same to me. Lol. Not a nurse, but I woke up from surgery mad because the anesthesiologist told me he was just giving me oxygen, but then next thing I knew I woke up in post-op. I told the nurse, that bitch lied to me, and she just said okay and went to get my parents. Lol. I had a strong dislike of needles/ives as a teen. so they offered me laughing gas to make it, so I didn't care about the needle. I remember them opening my mouth and preparing for surgery, and I was mad as hell the whole time because the laughing gas just made my eyes itchy, and I cared very much about the needle, and here they were about to cut my jaw open when I was still awake. Then there was sunshine and a cactus, and then I was in the passenger seat of my mum's car. Apparently they wheeled me out and I briefly came to outside the office next to their cactus, but I was too drugged up and full of gauze to really say anything at all. "Did you fancy up my peen a little bit?" said to me the post-op RN after patient's vasectomy. Put under for a vasectomy. I was wide awake for mine and actually watched the thing go down. Lol. Local anesthesia is all that's needed. General anesthesia may have been what was wanted. Not a nurse, but after I got my wisdom teeth out I was convinced I was Clark Kent and kept taking my glasses off and mumbling I'm Superman. And then I cried when they told me they were going to put my teeth in the incinerator because for some reason drugged me thought they meant all my teeth. Am I the only one imagining another person laying next to you whispering and I'm Batman? My dad kept naming members of the Justice League to see what I would say. It turns out I have some very unflattering opinions of Green Lantern. Backstory: my grandmother desperately needed a hip replacement. She didn't want the surgery, but it had reached the point where my grandfather couldn't care for her unless she got it and had to give her the ultimatum to either have the surgery or move into assisted living, something she absolutely did not want. She had some onset of dementia, so everyone was extremely worried about what the anesthesia would do to her mental condition. After surgery, they were asking her questions to see if the anesthesia had affected her cognitive functions. My grandfather asked, "Do you know who I am?" And her response was, "You're the dirty rotten little so and so who did this to me," as she pointed at her leg. Oh, she had also named both her stuffed cat and her cane George. Anyone else she didn't immediately recognize by name, while the anesthesia wore off, was also dubbed George. There is nobody in our family named George. Actually, it sounds like there are a lot of people in your family named George. I laughed out loud at this. Thanks. Or the level 1, general anesthesia. Patients were snoozing and in no pain. I was walking by and sneezed. I was almost to the door and heard a subdued voice say, "Bless you." Never did figure out which patient said it, but it was so sweet. Another time it was a coworker who'd had surgery, and when I went to check on them, they wailed, "I just want everyone to like me." It was funny as hell, because it was a doc who used to yell a lot. I like both of those stories a lot. Did the second one change how you thought of your coworker? I think he wailed that way with me in recovery because we had a unique relationship where he knew I saw who he really was and we had respect for each other. Not many got him. Our first encounter was in the or where he looked up, elbows deep in a case, and yelled he didn't know who I was. Why was I in his room and to get out? He kept yelling as I rolled my eyes and said, "I'm here doing my job. You'll have to deal with that later." After that, he and I had an understanding that he couldn't bulldoze me, and some years later, still working in the same depth, I went to him for surgery where he did what no one else could. Later I asked him when he was going to pay me for the privilege of operating on me, and he gave me a quarter. When he felt sick and would come out of an hours-long operation, I'd hand him a cup of warm tea when he came out. He's a gruff teddy bear,